that I'm intelligent, I'm successful on paper, on the outside everything looks fine, but I'm miserable, I'm completely unhappy. I had an HbA1c of 6.3. Man, this is not funny. I'm the diabetes doctor. I can't have diabetes. Nothing doing.
That was Dr. Roshani.
So I did my MBBS in Bombay and loved it. KM was fun, super geeky. Like, I don't have any memory of hobbies at that point because all I did was consume my textbooks. Very, very serious student, I would say. But it's paid off, I think, in hindsight. And went to the US, did psychiatry for a year, felt like I wanted to be hands-on with internal medicine, where you could geek out with more details and measurable things. Within that, I was like, now I want to specialize. And next thing became what within this is more responsive to behavior or to habits or to state of mind. And mood and hormones seemed like an easy thing to make sense. And the additional piece that fascinated me was that the more I studied endocrinology, I was like, well, the kidney sends instructions to the heart, and the heart sends instructions to the brain, and the brain sends instructions to the lungs, and it's back and forth. Lungs can talk to the brain, and all this mind-body stuff is happening through hormonal signaling. Of course, neurological wiring as well, but hormones do a lot to keep the organs talking to each other. And I thought that was brilliant. So that's when I decided endocrinology it is. And then within endocrinology, I got more and more interested in diabetes and metabolism as my areas because I could do so much with lifestyle change. Where if I could help people change habits, we were getting a grip on chronic disease. We were getting a grip on reversing problems, down regulating prescriptions, de-prescribing drugs. And finally, in 2016, through a series of other things where I got exposed to diabetes education as a concept, I had trained in it and I started using it. I created the first diabetes education program in Hinduja Hospital in Mumbai.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and doctor-led that too.
When did you first realize that lifestyle changes can actually make meaningful differences on, let's say, endocrinology or hormones?
My own pre-diabetes I reversed. I had an HbA1c of 6.3.
Really? How far back was this?
This was 2012-13.
Okay.
Massive stress and continuous high carb diet, which was there. I'm a Gujarati vegetarian, so there was plenty of carbs all my life, like from my childhood, my college days. It's been carb predominant. But that was always there. That had not really been a new thing. But massive stress. I think the adjustment when we moved from US to India in 2011, those first 2 years were definitely very hard. And
I think that was the trigger.
I think that was the turning point, like just a real sort of tipping point. Family history of diabetes is there. So the genetics were always there. The gun had been already loaded, right? So they say, right, the genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So I feel like the stress did it for me. And then I was like, no, man, this is not funny. I'm the diabetes doctor. I can't have diabetes. Nothing doing. So I probably took the approach that I'm going to do whatever it takes to get rid of this. I'm not going to be a patient and then ask others to change their lifestyle if I can't be an example of how to do it myself. So I ran my own experiment and I started building muscle. I started really taking care of exercising to build muscle mass. Because textbook knowledge, insulin resistance will get better. Stress management, I got into like spirituality, meditation. Deep journey has been there since then. And nutrition awareness actually improved after that because we were never trained in medical school about nutrition at all. Didn't know anything about food.
I find it incredible. You've been going to hospital since
1995.
95. And only the first time that you've taken nutrition seriously
was when I got sick.
15 years later. It's almost a decade and a half later.
Yeah. But nobody still required me to even then. It was only by choice that I
you did it for
jumped
yourself.
into it for myself. And that's what I see now. If you look at the low-carb physician community, the physicians who are there because of personal experience, many of the times. It's not happening because of conventional exposure. It's because the system has not given you the answers you needed for your family, yourself, and you started experimenting and realizing. We've seen examples of doctors who've gotten obese following the standard nutrition guidelines. So then the intelligence kicks in. It's like something seems to be wrong. I'm following the same advice I want my patients to follow, and all of us are getting sick.
So I'm curious, what did you change, just diet-wise? I'm talking about 2011, 2012.
After the pre-diabetes? Yeah, so again, it wasn't very drastic even then. I think for me, it was stress and exercise.
Those were the two real drivers.
Big triggers for me. And the protein consciousness, maybe, I want to say happened even still a few years later. As I started reading more, I started actually going out of my way to now find information about this.
Yeah, because you wanted to fix this.
Yeah, I wanted to fix this. And the importance of protein is really sort of actually accelerating now, if you look in the last 3-4 years. So it's taken time for it to really catch on, protein. But reducing carbs has happened over the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years.
What about stress management? Meditation is usually thrown around as the go-to for it. But I find that it's not easy for people to know what to do, especially if they don't have a guide.
Yeah.
That's part one. Part two, I don't think it works for everybody because it's not easy to get into that state to do it right. How did you navigate that journey for yourself?
In 2013, I finally realized that the pain of staying the same became more difficult than the pain of change.
You felt cornered in a sense that you had to get out now.
Darkest moments of my life where it was like all doom and gloom kind of experience. So I realized that I'm intelligent, I'm successful on paper, on the outside everything looks fine, but I'm miserable, I'm completely unhappy. And at that point, when you're not in a spiritual frame of mind, there tends to be a victim complex or poor me.
Yeah.
And I was definitely in that. And guess what? Whenever you're feeling a poor me or a victim complex, you're not happy. These are mutually exclusive states. You cannot be a victim and be happy. Poor me is never going to be happy.
I can relate so much to this right now.
Right?
You're so right.
It's such a truth. And I was so tired of being unhappy. And I was like, I've been waiting for this, and this to change. That's not happening. If only those things or people would change or situations would go away,
I would be fine.
I would be happy.
Yeah.
But it's not happened. And now 2 years of misery later and IQ and effort and later, I'm definitely not happy.
And you're in the same place.
Yeah,
You've not moved either. Yeah, probably worse. Correct.
Sinking. So I was like, I want to be happy. I will change. I'm taking this key back. Is I'm going to change whatever I have to change so that I can be happy. And as I think when the student is ready, the teacher appears. One of my friends who I had known for 12 years, she was already my friend. And we had been in Bombay together. We had been in Chicago together. We were back in Bombay together. And she wasn't my closest friend. But that moment, something guided me to phone her and tell her what a mess I was in. And she said, my friends call me Rosh. And she said, Rosh, you're ready to learn Reiki.
Okay.
And I was like, anyways, at my wit's end. Now, the intellectual person could have said, what is that?
Right.
Be picky and fussy. But my ego had been crushed. I was like, I am ready. If you say do monkey, I will do monkey. You're saying Reiki, I'll do Reiki. I had reached that level of no attachment, no fuss now. I am now going to be a student of this. And I have professional abilities to be a geek, right? So then you take spirituality as a subject. You now geek out on that.
Use the same principles of deduction analysis and correct.
Yeah. And guess what? I was lucky that she's that type of Reiki teacher or meditation teacher that she doesn't want you to blindly follow anything. I'm not the kind who would. And so it became a right master or a right guru or a right teacher in front of you, giving you choice, giving you logical options. And my gosh, it's been the power of forgiveness, the power of, and meditation, we have this cliched sort of marketed idea of meditation is sit on the mat, put some incense and some om and some bells. And right now I could be meditating. If I'm talking to you and if I'm noticing that I'm conscious of this interview and I can feel that my fingers are, if I feel the awareness of coming into this moment and just focus on maybe your breath, meditation becomes a way of life. Am I aware of how my mind is beginning to throw negative thoughts? Oh, I'm late. Oh, they must have done something. How could they be so inconsiderate of my calendar? If I can observe my thoughts, I'll be revving myself up into a worked up state. So meditation is to be in constant awareness of that. That is the level at which I want to be, so that I don't have to wait for crisis mode and then convince myself to go sit on a mat.
Or keep reacting.
I don't want to keep reacting. I'm not okay now with the world pressing my buttons.
That was the turning point. Stress-wise.
Yeah. And it still happens. You still feel victim to world events or life events all the time. That human mind tendency is always there.
You're human, right?
Yeah. And we have blind spots. We have unconscious things that drive us in a certain direction. That's why you stay in company of community of people who are on that same journey together. So if you're feeling caught up or stuck, someone might, give you shine some light on your dark spots. You work with therapy. You do multiple work. I have done so many modalities of therapy on myself. I wouldn't say it's been an easy ride, but I am only using my own barometer of happiness. If I am not happy, that means I have to do some work.
Something's amiss.
Something is amiss. That's my symptom.
Is this the same principle of care that you apply to patients that come and see you?
It was inevitable. It was inevitable because you realize at a human level what you're going through is a universal human experience. So they're going through the same thing.
Maybe the circumstances are different.
Yeah.
But the situation is usually the same.
And the experience becomes very universal in some way. I mean, the trigger for it would be different, but how stress feels in the body, how your health responds to stress, again, it'll be different. Someone will get migraines, someone will get acidity, someone will get back spasm, someone will get hair fall, someone's immunity will drop, someone will get cancer.